How to program your WeatherTRAK controller to irrigate before central activation. With WeatherTRAK, the activation is an essential part of gaining all of the features that you've come to depend on with the WeatherTRAK technology. After a controller is installed, the call for activation sets up the communication and turns on the cell phone card inside the controller. And along with that communication comes some of the key WeatherTRAK features that our users depend on, like the daily weather information, the central internet management from WeatherTRAK.net, and the app-based management from WeatherTRAK Mobile that turns your smartphone into a remote control. So it's important to understand that without the activation, you don't have access to some of the key WeatherTRAK features. However, sometimes during the construction process, a contractor might want to be able to install the WeatherTRAK and have it start to establish the new plant life and take care of the new landscape without activating the controller. So even though they don't have the full feature set, including the weather-based irrigation feature, they want to be able to set up the controller to irrigate. So without the weather-based irrigation feature, we're going to need to program those stations in a station mode called User No ET, where the user can define the program and set up a unique irrigation program for each station in terms of the number of minutes per cycle and the number of cycles per day, as well as defining the program information, including the start times and water days that those programs should be allowed to run. Let's run through a quick demonstration on how to program those essential functions on a WeatherTRAK Pro 3. Before I get started, a quick lesson in navigation. For this demonstration, I'm going to refer to this button pad on the left as my menu buttons. Each one of these buttons is a separate menu. Behind every menu, there's a series of questions that need to be answered correctly before your controller is going to irrigate properly. So the first step in programming is to find the right menu. Then we're going to use the forward and backward arrows to scroll through the questions on that menu. And once we found the right question, we'll use the plus and minus buttons to scroll through the available answers for that question. So the programming process is find the right menu, then find the right question, then find the right answer. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Now the first thing we want to accomplish is on the setup menu. So the first thing we do is push the setup button, and the first question here on the setup menu is adjust display contrast. This makes the display lighter and darker and is not the question we're looking for. So we will move over to our forward arrow and we'll click our forward arrow, and this brings us to the first thing we want to program, which is the date and time for the controller. So we'll use that plus button until we get to the proper year. And once you have the right year, there is no enter button, there is no magic word. The value displayed is the value that will be saved into the program. So once you have the right answer, you're safe to move to the next question in sequence. We'll go back to the forward arrow, and one click will bring us to the next question in sequence, which allows us to set the month. So you use the plus and minus buttons to find the right month, and then you hit the forward arrow, and that brings us to day. Plus and minus to find the right day. And once you found the right day, forward arrow brings us to the clock setting of hour, and you can plus and minus to the right hour in the day. Notice the AM and PM is controlled on this screen, so make sure that you have that set correctly. And once that's done, the forward arrow one more time brings us to set time minute. So we set up our time and date appropriately. Then we forward arrow, and that brings us to time zone, and we want to set that appropriately. And last but not least, we want to go up to a screen called Max Active Stations. And the Max Active Station setting tells the controller how many stations it should be looking for during normal operation. So this should be set to the highest station valve that you have plugged into the valve wire terminal board. So if I'm only using 45 stations, I would use my minus button and scroll down until my Max Active Station said 45. And once we've set our Max Active Stations, we're done on our setup menu and we're ready to move to the program menu. So we push our program button to bring up our program menu, and the first question on this menu is select the program. And to keep things easy, we're going to keep all stations on program A, so we're only going to need to set up the start time and water window for program A. So we select program A, we've got the right answer, so we move to the next question by hitting the forward arrow button until we get to the screen that says set starts and windows. And this is where we want to set up our start times. And it asks us to hit the select button, which is right here on the keypad. And here on the start time screen, you notice that the cursor is under the 12 o'clock or the hours on the start time. If we wanted to set our start time to say 9 p.m., we would just take our minus button and click back until our start time said 9 p.m. And then the forward arrow allows us to change the minute. So if I wanted to set this to 9:15, I could hit plus until I got to 15. But we just want to leave that at 9 o'clock. Moving our cursor forward, we bring up the hours in the water window. And the water window setting is the number of hours available for irrigation. So if I want to be done irrigating by 9 a.m., I'll want to program a 12-hour watering window. So I take the minus button and set up a 12-hour watering window. Once I've got my start time and water windows set, I hit that forward arrow until I get to water day mode. And since all of my stations are going to be in user mode, I want to select the water day mode called days of the week. This allows me to select which days my irrigation system will run. In the default setting, you'll see all of the days revealed and the cursor under the S for Sunday. And in this mode, if the day letter is showing, that means that the controller will irrigate at the start time on that day. So say I only wanted to water on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I would put the cursor under Sunday, which is not a water day, and I would take Sunday off of the program. Then I would hit the forward arrow. I would skip Monday and leave Monday on and move my cursor to Tuesday, turn Tuesday off, then move my cursor forward past Wednesday to Thursday and turn Thursday off, then move my cursor forward past Friday and turn Saturday off. So with the M, W, and F displayed, that means my irrigation will run at 9 p.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And once I've got my start time, my water window, and my water days set up, I'm ready to move on to my station programming. For station programming, we want to hit our stations button or bring up our stations menu. And the first question here on the stations menu is select station to program. The first step is to program station 1, and since I'm already there, I'll hit my forward arrow, and the next question in sequence is set station mode. Because we're not using the automated by WeatherTRAK or the weather-based irrigation, we want to change the station mode from auto to user no ET. This is the user-defined program that we talked about. So once I have station mode user no ET, I go back to my forward arrow and click through until I get to runtime part 1. This is the number of minutes per cycle that you're going to set up. And in the most simple programming, we just push the plus button until we have the number of minutes that we want on this station every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So for spray heads, let's call it 15 minutes. Again, once I've got the right answer, I go back to the forward arrow. Runtime part 2 is the tenths of minutes. So if you want 15.5 minutes, we can do that. Since we don't want to do that, we'll just skip right on to the next screen, which is number of cycles. This is the number of cycles per day. This is a runtime multiplier. So if I push this to 2 cycles, I'll get 15 minutes 2 times inside that water window for a total runtime of 30 minutes that night. And with spray heads, that would be way too much. So we'll take that back down. However, this is a great feature of cycle and soak. So if you do want to lay down multiple cycles across a night, the WeatherTRAK has the flexibility to lay down as many cycles as you may want, as long as they fit inside your water window. But since we only want 1 cycle on this station, we'll go ahead and move to the next question. Move forward arrow. The next question is soak time, and the soak time is the minimum number of minutes in between the cycles for this station. If I have a 30-minute soak time, that means that this station will be sure to wait at least 30 minutes between the first and second cycle, but because I'm using only 1 cycle on this station, the soak time is not applicable in this scenario. So I move forward and we see station 1 complete. Now I have station 1 set to run 15 minutes at 9 p.m. every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Now that I'm done with station 1, if I hit the forward arrow, station 2 automatically comes up. So I'll go through for station 2, I'll change it to user mode. I'll set my number of minutes per cycle to 15, and let's say on station 2 I have rotor head, so I want 2 cycles of 15 minutes. So I set runtime for 15 minutes, and then I go up to number of cycles and I say 2 cycles of 15 minutes for station 2. The soak time of 30 minutes means there will be a minimum of 30 minutes in between those 2 15-minute cycles inside the water window, and station 2 is complete. Now we need to go through the process of going station by station and setting up each station's runtime individually for whatever that station may need. As an advanced tip, when you're on this Select Station screen, you can advance through the stations very quickly to find the station you're looking for, so you don't have to scroll through every screen on every station to advance the stations. Also, we have the copy button that allows for quicker programming. If you want to copy the station program from one station to another, you can do that, or you can copy the station program from one station to all stations. This can greatly speed up the programming process. And once you have the setup menu, the program menu, and the stations menu all programmed, you've completed all of the programming required for irrigation. Keep in mind there are other components on the irrigation system that might need programming before irrigation happens. So if you have a master valve, a flow sensor, or a pump start, those will all be programmed on the flow menu.